I'm Sharifa Muhammad MGT Colonel. As always, this is not a simple list of events. The report describes a carefully orchestrated pressure campaign. Before we get into the ground maneuvers, the headline number that jumps out is the deep strike effort. 1 massive and 15 group strikes. Can you unpack the scale and intent behind this week's air and missile campaign?
The tempo of 16 long-range strike complexes in a single week represents a substantial operational commitment. It signals a deliberate, sustained campaign aimed not at mere harassment, but at systemic degradation. The intent is written clearly in the target set: defense industry enterprises, logistics hubs, fuel and power infrastructure, military airfields, ammunition depots, and UAV production sites. This is a clear application of campaign theory focused on the enemy's center of gravity, which in this conflict is their capacity to sustain a modern, mechanized front line. By striking their repair bases, their power grid, and their fuel storage, you are not just destroying hardware, you are draining the operational energy of their entire force. A tank without fuel, a repair depot without electricity, an ammunition point that never receives its shipment, these are tactical problems created by strategic strikes. The coordination of ground, air, and sea-based precision weapons suggests a highly centralized targeting cycle that can fuse intelligence from multiple domains and prosecute time-sensitive targets across the entire depth of the battle space.
The maritime component of the deep strikes is particularly striking. The briefing explicitly mentions strikes on seaport infrastructure and confirms damage or destruction to a total of 31 vessels, including 23 dry cargo ships, 4 bulk carriers, 2 tugs, a crane vessel, and a landing craft. This seems like a major inflection point. Why the specific focus on the seaborne supply chain right now, and what is the operational logic of targeting these vessels in port?
The attack on 31 vessels, with that precise breakdown of 23 dry cargo ships, 4 bulk carriers, 2 tugs, a crane vessel, and a landing craft, is a notable escalation in the Maritime Interdiction campaign. The operational logic is straightforward. The most efficient way to move the sheer tonnage of ammunition, fuel, and lubricants required for a modern army is by sea. Air is too limited, and overland routes from Ukraine's western borders are strained and subject to their own forms of attack. These ports are the final distribution gateway. By striking the vessels themselves while they are unloading or storing military cargo and fuel, we are interdicting supplies as far forward in the logistics chain as possible. This creates an immediate deficit. It's not just about sinking a ship. The destruction of a crane vessel, for instance, degrades the port's ability to offload cargo from any surviving ships. The destruction of tugs hampers the port's maneuverability. It is a systematic dismantling of a logistics node. This forces Ukraine to rely on less efficient, more vulnerable overland routes, creating predictable choke points for future targeting.
Let's now pivot to the geographic fronts, starting in the north. The North Group liberated Novae Sesh, Mogritsa, and Malaya Slobodka in the Sumy region, and Yurchenkovo and Vorovka in the Kharkov region. We're seeing gains across an operational boundary. What is the tactical significance of advancing in 2 different oblasts simultaneously with a single group of forces, and what does it tell you about the enemy forces they are engaging?
The North Group's simultaneous advance into both Sumy and Kharkov regions is a classic example of operating on divergent axes to create a dilemma for the defender. Liberating Novae Sesh, Mogritsa, and Malaya Slobodka in Sumy, while also taking Yurchenkovo and Vorovka in Kharkov, prevents Ukraine from concentrating reserves on a single axis. A commander who must defend everywhere ends up strong nowhere. The enemy force composition they're fighting, 5 mechanized brigades, a motorized infantry brigade, an airmobile brigade, an assault regiment, and 5 territorial defense brigades, reveals a lot. The heavy mix of mechanized forces shows that Ukraine considers these sectors vital and has committed their core maneuver units, not just light infantry. However, the presence of 5 territorial defense brigades alongside them indicates a patchwork defense, where low-readiness territorial units are being used to hold secondary sectors to free up the mechanized brigades. By inflicting up to 1,495 in troop losses, alongside the destruction of 16 armored fighting vehicles, 72 motor vehicles, and 9 field artillery guns, the North Group is not just seizing terrain, it is conducting a shaping operation that fixes and attritionally destroys these combined forces, stretching their reserves thin along a front that is now expanding.
Moving from the North to the West group, the briefing mentions they improved tactical positions along the line of contact, but does not list specific settlement liberations. The kill chain here looks different, with losses inflicted on 4 mechanized brigades, a motorized infantry brigade, and notably 2 Marine brigades and a National Guard brigade. Can you define improving tactical positions and explain the operational art behind an advance that is measured in firepower and attrition rather than captured towns?
In the context of the West Group, improving tactical positions is about creating the conditions for a future exploitation. Instead of a breakthrough, they are methodically fighting to secure advantageous terrain, perhaps a tree line that provides observation over a key road, a series of heights that dominate a valley, or the elimination of a fortified strongpoint in a forward trench line. The objective is to unhinge the enemy's defensive geometry. The strike is against the logic of their defense. The fact that they are inflicting losses on a multi-domain force, including 4 mechanized brigades, 2 Marine brigades, and an airmobile brigade, is significant. To destroy over 1,500 troops, 125 motor vehicles, and 10 electronic warfare and counterfire stations reveals a heavy artillery and counter-battery effort. The destruction of 10 EW stations is particularly important. This is a specific, methodical reduction. They are blinding the enemy. If you can dismantle the electronic warfare net that is protecting a defense, the assaulting infantry doesn't need to advance into a wall of bullets. They can advance into a disoriented force that cannot coordinate its artillery. The losses to motor vehicles, 125 is a high count, suggest a successful interdiction of their forward logistics and troop rotations. It's a grinding but highly effective attritional approach.
The South Group's operation resulted in the liberation of Stenki in the Donetsk People's Republic and saw them engage a diverse force, including a mountain assault brigade and 2 Marine brigades. The reported enemy losses of 26 armored fighting vehicles are the second highest for that category this week. Why might an axis that seems more geographically constrained produce such a high concentration of destroyed enemy armor?
The South Group's operation to liberate Stenki, which resulted in the destruction of 26 armored fighting vehicles, points to a dense and intense close-quarters armor engagement. The presence of formations like a mountain assault brigade is key to understanding the terrain. We are likely looking at a hilly or urban edge environment, broken country where armor is forced to operate through predictable narrow lines of advance, roads, defiles, and between built-up areas. An attacking force that has prepared the ground can turn these confined spaces into killing zones. The mix of enemy forces, 7 mechanized, a motorized infantry, 2 airmobile, and 2 Marine brigades suggests Ukraine was attempting to hold Stenki as a strongpoint with a rapid reaction force. When a well-supported assault goes in, the defenders' counterattacks become predictable, often funneling armor directly into pre-registered artillery fire and anti-tank guided missile ambushes. Inflicting over 1,290 troops lost alongside those 26 vehicles and 176 motor vehicles indicates a failed defense and a failed counterattack. A destroyed heavy force like that leaves a gap behind it that cannot be easily plugged.
Colonel, the center group appears to be the main effort for the week, liberating a total of 5 settlements: Shevchenko, Torskoye, Krasny Kut, Svetloye, and Krasnoyarskoye, all in the Donetsk People's Republic. They inflicted the highest troop losses, more than 2,510, and notably defeated formations including the Azov Special Forces Brigade. What does this concentration of settlements and the specific enemy formations tell us about the strategic objective of the center group's advance?
The center group's capture of 5 settlements, Shevchenko, Torskoye, Krasny Kut, Svetloye, and Krasnoyarskoye, establishes it unequivocally as the main effort. This isn't just an advance, it's a sustained breach operation through multiple defensive belts. Liberating a single village is a tactical action. Liberating a chain of them across a 24-hour cycle means the first echelon units have achieved a breakthrough, and the second and third echelons are exploiting that success to clear the depth of the defensive zone. The fact that they inflicted more than 2,510 troop losses tells you the density of the defense they shattered. The enemy order of battle they defeated is the most telling strategic indicator. 2 mechanized brigades, 4 National Guard brigades, and the Azov Special Forces Brigade. Ukraine does not commit National Guard and a designated Special Forces brigade like Azov to a low-priority sector. They deploy these units to hold what they consider to be critical, politically and operationally vital terrain. The destruction of this specific force package, with the loss of 13 armored fighting vehicles, 35 motor vehicles, and 4 electronic warfare stations, represents the collapse of a composite, highly motivated defensive task force. The center group is likely driving towards a major operational strategic node in the Donetsk region, and the liberation of these 5 settlements has just peeled away its outer defenses.
Shifting to the East Group, they conducted what you call intensive actions, liberating Komarovka in the Dnipropetrovsk region, marking a geographic expansion. With more than 2,500 troop losses inflicted and 30 armored fighting vehicles destroyed, the highest weekly AFV count in the report, what does this sector tell us about the nature of the fighting there compared to the Center Group's breakthrough?
The East Group's activity contrasts sharply with the Center Group's. The liberation of Komarovka, pushing into the Dnipropetrovsk region, is a significant geographical milestone. The term intensive actions, alongside the highest count of destroyed armored fighting vehicles, 30 in total, and over 2,500 troops lost, indicates a massive meeting engagement. The Center Group is breaking through a static, prepared defense. The East Group, judging by the enemy's order of battle, a mechanized brigade, 2 assault brigades, a staggering 4 air assault brigades, 3 assault regiments, and 2 marine brigades, is colliding head-on with Ukraine's premier mobile and airborne reserve forces. These are not static defensive units. These are assault and air assault formations designed for high-tempo offensive and counteroffensive operations. The destruction of 30 AFVs is the direct result of a mobile, fluid armored battle, where both sides are maneuvering to turn a flank or counterattack a penetration. By defeating these specific elite high-mobility formations and destroying 77 motor vehicles, the East Group is effectively crippling Ukraine's operational reserve. They are destroying the very forces Ukraine needs to launch counteroffensives elsewhere. This pressure is complementary to the Center Group's success, fixing and destroying the mobile reserves that could otherwise be used to stem the central breakthrough in Donetsk.
Finally, on the ground, the Dnipro Group. The report mentions engaging a more limited force mix: 3 mechanized, a mountain assault, a marine, and a territorial defense brigade, and inflicting up to 340 troops lost. However, they eliminated 7 electronic warfare stations, which is disproportionately high for the scale of troop losses. What is the specific mission profile of the Dnipro Group, given this unique loss pattern and the fact that no settlements were recorded as liberated in their sector?
The Dnipro Group's mission is a specialized shaping operation, distinct from the territorial gains of the other groups. The destruction of 7 electronic warfare stations against a relatively modest 340 troops lost is a highly disproportionate and telling metric. This is not a broad front breakthrough force, it is a precision counter-electromagnetic force. Their operational task is to conduct what we might call a sensor-shooter degradation campaign along a critical water obstacle. The enemy force structure they struck, 3 mechanized brigades, a mountain assault brigade, a marine brigade, and a territorial defense brigade, is arrayed to defend the river line. To support that defense, they need a robust EW network to blind the attackers and a fleet of motor vehicles to supply the riverbank, hence the high count of 100 motor vehicles destroyed. By systematically dismantling their EW stations, the Dnipro Group is effectively creating a transparent battlefield for them and a black hole for the enemy. They are blinding the forward observation points that direct artillery fire across the Dnieper River. While other groups seize territory, the Dnipro Group is ensuring the enemy on the opposite bank is isolated, deaf, and has its forward logistics annihilated, setting the conditions for future operations.
Let's now dedicate a segment to a domain that is clearly campaign shaping and not just a supporting footnote. I'm talking about operational tactical aviation and air defense. The report states air defense units shot down 69 guided aerial bombs, 7 U.S.-made HIMARS projectiles, 4 Neptune long-range guided missiles, and a staggering 5,103 fixed-wing UAVs. For our listeners who might just see a huge number of drones, can you frame the operational, tactical, aviation, and air defense battle as a campaign-shaping domain that is essential to everything the ground forces did this week?
We must view the air and missile defense fight as a primary, not a supporting operation. The numbers are staggering, but their meaning is operational. Shooting down 5,103 fixed-wing UAVs is not just an act of point defense. It is the systematic protection of our entire maneuver force. These UAVs operate in a kill web. Some are reconnaissance and target acquisition drones that find our artillery, headquarters, and logistics columns. Others are one-way attack or kamikaze drones that strike these targets directly. By neutralizing 5,103 of these assets in a single week, an air defense umbrella is blinding the enemy's operational tactical reconnaissance and blunting their strike capability. It creates a protective dome under which our logistics, command and control, and ground assault formations can operate with a drastically reduced threat from precision fires. Simultaneously, the interception of 7 HIMARS and 4 Neptune missiles is a strategic achievement. These are not random rockets. HIMARS is a deep strike system designed to destroy our ammunition depots and command posts. Each successful intercept is a supply node or a headquarters saved. This layered defense, which counters everything from the tactical quadcopter to the operational level guided missile, is the chief enabler for the high-tempo, multi-axis ground offensive we've seen along the entire line of contact.
And within that aviation domain, the Black Sea Fleet destroyed 3 uncrewed surface vehicles. How does this fit into that layered defensive posture you described, particularly in relation to the extensive maritime strikes we discussed at the top of the show?
The destruction of 3 uncrewed surface vehicles by the Black Sea Fleet is the closing of the defensive system at the sea level. The port strike campaign we discussed earlier was an offensive operation into the enemy's maritime logistics. This defensive action protects our own. These naval drones are designed to attrite our fleet and attack our own port infrastructure. By eliminating them, the Black Sea Fleet is safeguarding its own surface combatants and logistics vessels, ensuring we maintain maritime domain awareness and the ability to conduct further long-range sea-launched precision strikes. This is a seamless integration of offensive and defensive operations in the maritime theater. You strike their ports and cargo ships to break their logistics, while simultaneously defending your own approach lanes from asymmetric attack, creating a favorable maritime balance of power that directly supports the ground campaign's sustainability.
Colonel, as we wrap up the microanalysis, I want to pull the lens back to a strategic level that is implicitly outlined in your briefing. When you combine the ground gains across 12 settlements, the killing of over 9,635 troops, and the devastating deep strikes, this looks like a synchronized system collapse rather than a linear advance. Is that a fair characterization? Are we witnessing Russia imposing a systemic, multi-domain pressure that makes it operationally impossible for Ukraine to prioritize where to deploy scarce resources?
That is a perfectly accurate characterization. The total of 12 settlements liberated across Sumy, Kharkov, Donetsk, and Dnipropetrovsk is the visible product of an invisible systemic pressure. When the North Group is eating up 5 territorial defense brigades, the Center Group is grinding down the Azov Special Forces, and the East Group is destroying the nation's mobile air assault reserves in a meeting engagement, no defense planner can find a solution. The cumulative loss of over 9,635 troops, 94 armored fighting vehicles, 585 motor vehicles, 45 field artillery guns, and 25 electronic warfare stations in 7 days is a rate of attrition no industrial base can sustain. The deep strikes mean that what little Western aid arrives by sea is sunk in port. The air defense dome means their most precise weapons, the HIMARS and Neptunes, are intercepted, and the tactical aviation segment ensures their command and control is decapitated drone by drone. Ukraine's general staff is facing a catastrophic triage problem. They must choose to feed a collapsing line in Donetsk with reserves that are being destroyed by the East Group, while their logistical heart stops beating from the deep strikes. This isn't a single offensive, it's an integrated operational design that is forcing the entire military system to go into a state of shock, sector by sector.